Without doubts, I think it's by far the best league in Europe.
How dare you score like that in the Premier League? Mission accomplished in the Premier League. The American.
Next up, we have Manchester City, last year's title winners. A lot of changes, I think more than usual. Gally, we'll start with you on this one. Let's start with the outgoing because I feel like there are some key players that moved on. I know they added a bunch, but let's talk about these first, especially Sterling and my personal favorites, Gabriel Jesus. Bickler, there's a lot of empty seats over there, but go ahead. Gally, let's start with you.
Yeah, obviously, I think I mentioned during the Chelsea review we did on episode 2 that I really like the Sterling signing from their standpoint. I can't lie, I kind of like the sell from City as well. I mean, they actually, they recouped a big fee. They got a large contract and a big personality out of the club, one that was kind of reduced to more of a bit part role the last season and a half. He hasn't gotten as many starts both in the league and in the Champions League. And I think at times he's kind of fallen out of favor with Pep from his time with Liverpool. Us as Liverpool supporters know he's not the easiest guy to deal with all the time. All accounts, he's a really good human being. That doesn't mean he's a great player or employee, for the club. And I think when things aren't going his way, he stomps a fit, and I think that they did okay with this sale. I think it helped both sides. And as far as Jesus goes, I love it when I hear how Jesus, it's going to be a big loss for them, but he didn't really play all that much. I mean, he's had less than 25 starts in, I believe, all of his league campaigns. He doesn't always even get the first start when there's room for a center forward, which is what he was brought in to do. He was playing out on the wing with them. And I just feel like this is a move to force Jack Grealish into the equation. And you pay $100 million for a guy, you got to get him on the pitch. And they were able to move 2 huge contracts, recoup big fees, and we'll see whether Grealish works. But we're going to talk about their incomings. They did okay at number 9. And I feel like they signed a better number 2 striker in Alvarez than the number 2 that they had in Jesus. So for me, Zinchenko could be a bigger miss if they don't get Cucurella than honestly Sterling or Jesus was. As far as
that's odd you say that, because I felt like that was a ridiculous price for Zinchenko. I know Arteta is trying to bring the old gang back, and bringing all these guys from City, but I mean 38 and a half seems awfully high for Zinchenko, who I think looks good on a City team surrounded by so much talent, which will not, and that's established well working system. I don't know if obviously that's not going to be the case in Arsenal.
It was a shocker to me. Zinchenko's numbers actually going forward, his XG, his goals created and opportunities per minute played were number 1 of any fullback in the Premier League, higher than Trent, higher than Cancelo. He actually was Manchester City's most efficient player by all statistical analysis last year, and they plan to play him half at left back and half in their midfield. And I don't know. I think it was actually a really sneaky good signing to get a international level quality player that the manager trusts. And God knows I don't say much nice about Arteta. I actually think that was a sneaky good signing and might turn out to be one of the better ones in the league. But I apologize. I jumped to you there, Paul.
See, I think those numbers are kind of skewed because he was at City. I mean, it's almost like, Trent and Robo's numbers at Liverpool, where that could totally be different if they were playing in a different system. The system enables those wing back, the right back.
Still got to make the passes. Someone's got to finish them.
Yeah, exactly. And that's another thing. Like I don't know. I felt like that was like a really high price for him. I think, Gabriel Jesus is like a lot better buy for Arsenal. And I know for City, and I think most City fans will agree, I know if it wasn't for Holland coming in, I think Jesus would be a bigger loss, obviously, because there was a point where he was on this crazy run and he was scoring some key goals to kind of like open up some teams. City was having a tough time opening in some of those games. What do you make of it, Bickler?
I actually really like this window for City. Feels gross to say, but I mean, in a very un-City-like way, they offloaded a lot of pieces that recouped them some good cash. Across the board, they got better, and more impressively, they got younger, which is like, I mean, if you look at like Jesus out, Holland in, one of the biggest things about City is they haven't had an identifiable, powerful number 9 striker in that system, and they got that in Holland. You know, we've talked about our concerns over his durability. The fact is they went out and got the dude everybody wanted, right? And like, we can't ignore that. You know, Fernandinho out and some other midfield action out. You got Phillips in, younger, like that's the future there. Alvarez, I like him as a secondary striker too, and an attacking mid. The Zinchenko thing, if they are able to pull off Cucurella, I mean, that's another one of those things. I think Zinchenko really wants to play. He wants to play further forward. So he's going to get those opportunities. But I agree with what Gally said. I really think a lot of this, you know, is an opportunity where you can't – you looked at a good portion of that year where Grealish was on the bench. And, like, you can't spend that kind of money on a player and then not bed him into a team consistently. And so I think, you know, part of Grealish's struggles were he was never able to get a full run in and get regular playing time that he needed to do that. And I think that's going to help him in that regard. Across the board, if you look at their subtractions and additions, they got younger, they got better, and they definitely got stronger.
Well, that answers one of my questions because I was going to ask you that. Same question too, then, Gally. Are they better, worse, about the same as last year, or does it really hinge a lot on what Holland is going to be able to do? And honestly, aside from perhaps like health and staying healthy, I don't know if you can have a lot of concerns with what he can do with his pace and, you know, like physical and obviously his finishing. I know it says 66 over there, but transfer market does not look at side deals that are happening over there. So it's a huge investment for them. But is that basically the biggest question mark? If that does not pan out, would you worry about what they can do going forward? I know you guys are both big on Alvarez. I just got to see more before I kind of like jump on that bandwagon, because sometimes that game does not literally translate to the Premier League. But what do you think, Gally?
I'll say this. I watched a lot of them at River Plate. I watched even more. I've watched a few of the preseason friendlies, including the other night against Bayern. He looks electric. He looks like he can do the job. And basically every medium club in every league tried to get him on loan, and City said, hell no, no way. He's playing a huge role this year. I think the guy might start by mid-season. I think he's that good. I think he could end up, for the money, be like signing of the year good. But we'll see what happens. As far as their signings go, the weakness for me, it isn't hinging on Holland. If Holland stays healthy, he's going to score 25 to 30 goals. It's what he's done his whole career, and he's only 21 years old. For me, it's their center backs. If you ask me where they have weaknesses, is Nathan Ake is still a center back at their club, which causes, you know, Pep to roll out Calvin Phillips playing at center back the other night. Laporte is soft, injury prone, and ready to go to Barcelona the moment they make a bid because he wants to play in Spain. It's pretty clear he's tried to make that move happen a few times. I think Diaz had a huge regression last year from being one of the top center backs 2 years ago. He was still good. And John Stones is John Stones. There's a mistake in him, and then there's 10 great matches in him that make people think he should get a new contract. So to me, their big weakness is the center of defense. And then if they don't sign Cucurella, they're a little short at left back, though I will say the kid they had playing left back up at Green Bay the other night, really young kid. Pep has already said he'll be part of the first team setup. He'll be a reserve player this year for them. So, you know, they're bringing in good players. What I really like about their window, they sold 5 different players for double digits that I'd never heard their name of. Like, they sold players, youth team players, a kid to Southampton. Now they're saying they might get $20 million for Delap. Like, they're actually selling young players the way I hope Liverpool eventually starts to loan out guys and sell them for high value, and it allows them to spend on players and up the ante. Now, we all know they have more money than us, but to Paul's point, I'd argue no one has had a better window in the Premier League than the champions, and that's scary for everybody in all of world football, let alone England.
I think like adding Cucurella would be icing on the cake, and if they do push that move through, then yes, as a Liverpool fan, I will be probably more worried. And I know, I mean, because we know it's the margin of error is so freaking small between these two clubs. And I don't know if predictions on this one is that kind of like a fair take, Paul. We probably figure one or two, right? I guess what would make them two? I know I agree with Gally when it comes to the center backs, that like defensive line. And I think you're kind of rolling the dice and relying a lot on Holland and obviously making, Grealish pay off. So I don't know if that's going to be an issue moving forward, because I felt like, Sterling and Jesus were those two guys that produced consistently for them. I know they were, with Pep's rotation, they're not always there. You can't always rely on them, but they got them a lot of points. So what would make them two in your mind? What would make them drop?
Two things that I think could make them drop: a slow start, because that's the only chance you have to catch them, because they finish every season in ridiculous form. And then to Gally's point, I think that if they have injury issues on the back line, they're going to be in trouble, because I don't really have a problem with the quality of Stones and Diaz starting together and Laporte, but those three, all three, outside of Diaz had sort of an outlier year, but Stones and Laporte have serious durability issues.
Yep.
So, if they go down, if they lose two of those three, they're going to be in real trouble.
How about you, Gally? I know you mentioned the center backs. I mean, that's pretty much, in terms of like their schedule, they do start the season. I know they had that like the West Ham game and then Newcastle, but like Bournemouth, Crystal Palace, Nottingham Forest, based on the previews we've done so far, I would not consider that a tough start to the season.
Nah, they have one of the easiest starts. West Ham could be tricky because I believe it's on the road as well, and it's not going to be easy to go to London Stadium, and everyone's excited. We're going to get to West Ham. You want to talk about a club having a good window, we'll get to them, and by the time we do next week, they might have signed two more quality players. But I'd say it's the center backs, number one, and Holland's health. I mean, they are still a little light if they were to lose Holland for, say, a month or 8 weeks to one of his muscle injuries, or if his back flared up. But we've seen this movie. They'll just start playing KDB through the false nine. They'll play Foden, and Mahrez will score goals. Grealish will contribute, click in a few goals. Gundogan's still there. He'll bomb in and score some goals. And then, let's not forget, we talk about this whole side. Their best player, top to bottom, last year was Rodri. He was immense. He was outstanding. And what do? They're like, oh, we'll go buy a backup for you that 2 years ago was the second or third best defensive midfielder in the Premier League in Phillips. I mean, if I give them credit, what they do is they identify the guys they want and they go get them. And I give them a lot of credit for that in the market. I'm going to be bullish. I'm going to pick City to finish second. I bet you know where the next prediction will go. I'm going to pick City to finish second. They're going to win the FA Cup. And I don't know who it's going to be to, but they're going to lose in the Champions League final.